or start your engines, Tom.
Why did I get put back into the other channel?
What are you talking about?
I went into Poopcast and then suddenly I looked away. When I looked back, I fucking popped back into Stream Room.
Huh.
No, Milkshake. I know Valve has made bad games. They made fucking Dota. What I mean is that
They
Half-Life
made a
2 is a
card
great
game.
game. They made
Anyways.
Hearthstone.
Yeah, they made Hearthstone. What do we want to talk about?
Motherfuckers.
What's the thing we want to talk about for this podcast, Tom?
I have no idea.
Do you have no earthly idea? Oh yeah, we wanted to talk about breaking convention, and even though it's important to learn the basics of art, it's also important to learn how to break those weird barriers of like, oh, viewpoint angles have to be exactly like this or it's not good art.
Mm-hmm.
And we could also go lay into the fact of like the chicken scratch thing with the no, chicken scratch is bad forever and always. It's like, that's silly. But yeah, we could do something like that. I'll be honest, Tom, I'm a bit fatigued. I noticed like today that my legs were like not working properly. Like this is the first time in a long while that I've been like, oh shit, my legs are sore. Like I've never had sore legs in like the longest time I've been alive. So that's weird.
It's
Anyways,
fucked up.
yeah, let's do a sync. All right, let's install a sync. Ready? On three, we'll install a sync.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Was that
Perfect.
Yeah, all right. We've installed the sync, viewers. That's what that clap signifies. Every time we install a sync into the podcast.
Every time we clap,
Anyways, what?
someone dies.
Yeah, every time we clap, someone dies on the podcast. But today on the podcast, we're talking about something very fascinating, such as things, places, people, and ideas. The main idea we're going to talk about is how when you listen to this podcast, you should ignore all of our advice thus far. And yeah, well, and the reason we're saying that is because art, much like a lot of things that are creative, defy convention, or defy. What's the other word? I'm stupid. Tom, what's the other word? It's not. Is it defy?
Defy?
Yeah, defy. They go against, right?
Yes, yeah, that's what
Sorry,
defy means, yeah.
sorry, viewers. I'm having a bit of a lapse in my mental capacity at the moment. But Tom can lead this conversation, I guess. I don't fucking know. But like, when we're talking about defying convention, anyways, it's not important. What is important is this: is ignoring all the advice that me and Tom have given you over the many of podcasts, because art it lacks convention, so it's good, right? Yes, Tom, go
Yes.
into that.
Yeah. I don't know, it's just I think you're going with the idea that like there are conventions in art and following them can be very good and helpful, but you also shouldn't be afraid to go off of the rails of what you think you understand because a lot
Mm-hmm.
of the time that'll help you understand it more.
Yeah,
You know,
there's.
like I think there's a lot of people that will watch like a few tutorial videos about like here's how to draw a head, here's how to draw an arm, and they'll just stick with those forever. And every time you see their art, they're drawing the exact same body and face and arm, and it's like your art is very principled, but it's stale. It's like samey. You're not growing because
Mm-hmm.
they're too like attached to the conventions they learned.
Yeah, and I think the reason we're kind of talking about this, it's weird enough. The reason I'm talking about this is because I've been thinking a lot about Daft Punk, that very famous group, Daft Punk, and their music, because like the whole rigmarole for their music was not like not falling into convention, because they were the kind of originators of what they were trying to do, which was make the future of music while being in the present, right? And I think that's like
Mm-hmm.
what a lot of creatives do, that not necessarily innovate, but like they shake things up, right? Because the way you innovate is by innovating off of like other technologies. If we're gonna go down like the Daft Punk route, because they relied on synthesizers and stuff like that were just coming out to the scene, and so there was no conventions, no rules, no like things to follow because it was all like brand new territory. There's no like retreading on old hat. It was all just like, this is the tools that we've been given, and now we have to figure out how to use them. And for a lot of people who are like getting started in art and all that, the like the foundation has already been like set in stone. Like every path has been kind of laid out as far as I can tell. um if you want to find a way to do a thing, there's gonna be a fucking YouTube video about how to do that thing. But what you tend not to find when you're trying to like get good at art or something like that is you don't find like the weird niches of the world. Like the only people
Mhm.
uploading like YouTube tutorial art stuff are the people that know the foundations so well that they're able to reteach it and re-show it to people. But the
Yeah.
but the videos you're not seeing are like the weird shortcuts, or not even like the weird shortcuts, or maybe even like the longer roads that other artists take to create the things that they are making. And the reason they do that isn't necessarily because it's the most efficient way, but it's the way that gets them the visual result that they want. And I think that's a lot more important than just following the norms because it's a more efficient path to follow. Um, and that even goes as far as to say with animation stuff like that. There's a lot of things you can do in animation that allow you to move and work faster, which is frankly ideal for animation because of how much shit you have to do in order to like
Yeah.
have it be completed. But some people will just defy that and work the way that they choose to do it. Like a good example
Mhm.
of this is just using like crease pencil and blender. Like that's clearly not the most efficient way to animate like a 2D drawing, but for some it's the only way because it's not necessarily they've become satisfied with the program, or it's the way that they like to make it. It's it's probably as simple as like they learned how to do it in this, so they're kind of sticking with it. And by doing that, they've created their own niche and figured out weird shortcuts within their own program that allow them to work as fast as someone who's like animating in CSP, which by default, CSP is extraordinarily easier to animate as well as just like do a whole load of things because that's the nature of the program. It's very specified in
Mhm.
that kind of field.
The only thing is that that can turn around and bite you sometimes if you like you can also shoot yourself in the foot by just finding something and sticking to it too hard.
Hmm.
And I think an animation is a great example of that, where people will be like, "I'm going to try to animate," but they can never wrap their head around the ideas of like simplification. Like they'll just keep drawing in their highly detailed style, and they'll be like, "Oh, here's my first animation," and maybe it'll look really good, but then you'll see that they don't animate ever again because it takes them like a week to do something that's like 1 second long, and every frame is drawn super good,
Yeah.
but like there's not a lot of motion. It's usually pretty stiff. It looks nice, but it's not like sustainable,
Yeah,
and
it's
it's because they don't know how to defy their own conventions that they've built up.
hmm yeah, it's definitely wacky. Especially when, because like we've been talking, where it's like the main focus of art, I think, will always and forever be the creator wanting to see something that they have not seen and into the real world and like put it there at the end of the day, right? And the way you go about doing it is completely up to you. There's like an infinite amount of paths you can take just to get to that like end point of, yep, this is the thing I've made and this is how I made it. These are
Hmm.
the like step by step processes that I've done. But I think what makes art go a step further beyond that is when you make a brand new path, like a path that's never been like walked before in order to make that art. And we see this a lot with just like anything in the world, where it's like the Mona Lisa, like you were talking about this earlier, Tom, about how yes, the Mona Lisa is popular because like it got stolen, or because of this, or because it was made by this famous painter, right? But what not a lot of people talk about, which I don't know if you want to talk about it, is like the hair on the Mona Lisa, right, Tom? Oh God, Tom, fuck me. Ah, I hate this lousy internet. Bah! I'm back, Tom.
Remains extremely good. Was that Spark? Who was that?
Yes, it's me. I'm
Oh, Spark
back.
is back.
Yeah.
All right.
What did you say?
I was talking about, because you were gone. I was like, all right, I'll talk about the whole Half-Life 2 thing. And what's funny is that kind of, maybe we can talk about that more directly, because it kind of connects to what we're talking about. Milkshake's whole thing with Half-Life 2 is like, well, it's the game that set a lot of the what is it called? What were we saying?
The building blocks.
Yeah, like it set a lot of the building blocks for the first-person shooter genre. So therefore, you'd think it would be a worse version of the modern first-person shooter genre,
No.
but it's just not.
Yeah.
It was made well enough at its fundamentals that it remains an extremely good game
Yeah,
despite its
that's
age
not how that
and
works.
despite genre
Yeah,
development.
that's not how that works, by the way, Milkshake. So I know it can be
That's how it
tempting.
works sometimes. Like sometimes you'll play a game where it's like this game was developmental for this genre, and you go, it's just a worse version of this genre. But a lot of the time, it's not at all. It's just the game remains good.
Yeah, and what tends to happen rather is something will be innovative, and something will follow suit in that innovation and kind of copy it. But what tends to happen is the people that are somewhat copying the innovation were the ones who made that thing to begin with, and they're just
Hmm.
reiterating on the concept, and then it gets remembered for the thing that's famous secondly. It's the same thing with like FromSoft games. It's the same thing with like uh you know Daft Punk. It's the same thing with like a lot of things. It's it's weird. I guess another classic one is like Fortnite, but then Battlefield, right? Because like Battlefield was the first one to really do that concept, but then Fortnite had the same people who were on that team who developed that game mode, and they put it into their own game,
Hmm.
and that's how you get that whole weird debacle. But the reason Fortnite is more remembered than Battlefield is because they were able to reiterate on the concept that they already came up with and make it better. As well as just have a bunch of staying power because of just the nature of their like game mechanics and whatnot. But needless to say, like 9 times out of 10, if you innovate something like brand new, there's going to be a fair amount of people that are copying you, and because of that, there might be one shining example of someone who's copying your innovation, and then they stick out as being the ones who have made that concept. But truth be told, it's more like if you're already good at the thing you innovated on, you're gonna be more than fine. Like you'll be known as the person
Hmm.
who's done it, unless you're like a hack fraud, and it's like this was lightning in a bottle, and there's really no way for you to reclaim it because it was just a wacky internet video that you recorded, and for whatever fluke, you became famous for like 5 seconds, right? Because that's what I'm
I think
talking. That's like the inverse of that, right? Um.
I think I think you have more. I think a good example of a game that's like it was great in its time, it was innovative, but it doesn't hold up today. Like a good example of a game that does hold up today is Half Life Two. That game just, regardless of how the genre has developed, that game's fundamental core is still fun and
Mm-hmm.
works today. A good example of a game that doesn't hold up so well is Half Life One,
Is
where
Croc.
that game was yeah, Croc, starring Gordon Freeman.
Yeah.
Half Life One, I still think Half Life One is very good, and I think it gets a lot of flack. When I played it, I liked it a lot, but it is definitely very outdated in a lot of its concepts. You can feel the like Doom DNA,
Mm-hmm.
where like there's parts that are just like unbalanced, there's parts that are poorly paced, there's a lot of vents to crawl through, uh, because it was made by like a small team of people that couldn't playtest a whole lot. uh, that's a big part of it, just playtesting. Like after Half-Life One, Valve started playtesting to a ridiculous. Like most of their developer nodes in Half-Life Two is about, oh, we were playtesting this part for 8 hours, taking notes behind the person's shoulder, and that's how we figured out how to make this part of the game perfect.
Yeah.
Um, and like that's why Half-Life One is a great example of something that it set the genre forward. It created a lot of conventions, but it doesn't hold up great today, versus Half-Life 2, which is a game that like it set even more conventions for the genre it's in, but it's just good enough at its fundamental level that it remains a good experience. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't like age really, other than its graphics. And
And
that
that's
doesn't mean, Milkshake, that there aren't games that have been better than Half-Life 2 since.
yeah.
It's just that Half-Life 2 remains a masterpiece in its genre.
And not to use my titular catchphrase as Tom would say it, but I'll say this much, all right? And it's this, gamers
You
as
don't
well
say
as
the word
artists.
smut and smock in this, then it's not titular, but go on.
Yeah. But just because we're saying all this doesn't mean you should compromise your art form so that you can be like, see, look, I'm an innovator because I didn't do this
Hmm.
convention. It's like, no, that's not what we're saying. What we're saying is you need to understand the fundamentals, but then throw them all out the window while still using them to some extent. But then also, it's really fucking ass backwards what we're saying because it doesn't it's not normal. Like that's not what you do. But like that's what
Hmm.
that's what people who are known for the things that they are doing do all the time, which is they throw convention out the window. They throw fucking viewpoint angles or why arcs can't connect because it looks silly. And we can talk about this too, Tom, where we had someone earlier today come to us with like the whole, hey, I was asking about my art and what I could improve on, and this one faggot said, um, you do too much chicken scratch. You should stop doing chicken scratch because I say so. And I literally talked to that person who was like confused, like, should I not be doing chicken scratch anymore? I was like, well, first off, the artist we're talking about does not do like insane chicken scratch because there's like
Hmm.
levels to it. I think every artist can agree there's levels to chicken scratch where it's like minuscule lines connected together. That's insane chicken scratch. But then there's like, drawing on top of another line because you want to have a different kind of way it connects, and that's fine, especially for the sketching phase. But
Hmm.
me and Tom were talking. I was like, this just sounds like a guy who like found advice on YouTube and was just like, this is good advice because it says so. And it's like that they didn't take anything out of it. And that's literally what happened because like moments after me and Tom said that, the person sent a YouTube link with a cool thumbnail that has green and red text in an image with "Don't do chicken scratch. This is better." And it's like, okay, but like,
The thing is, I was trying to. So I wasn't completely on the same page there, but I was
mhm,
only paying attention like half, like during that. So I was trying to just be like, well, I think what he meant was this, and I pointed out like an
Yeah.
actual thing that he can improve on, which is like that not that the his lines weren't really chicken scratchy, they just weren't very like confident. That was
Mhm.
like what the person I think was trying to get at, but like didn't articulate properly.
Yeah.
Which that's why I always say like all criticism is valid, and except for when it's just absolutely insane. You know, like for example, if someone says like, "Oh, the arm looks weird here," it doesn't matter how good of an artist they are or how they got to that conclusion. The arm looks weird. There's something
Mhm.
wrong with the arm.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because, you know, maybe it's because it's too big, maybe it's too small, maybe the forearm is too long, maybe it's just because you didn't stylize it like just right in like how you draw. But even if they're a layperson, you can't just discount what they're saying because it still just means it looks wrong
Yeah, the only reason I
somehow.
discounted it to begin with was because the words they were saying were completely like
Hmm.
inaccurate to what they were meaning, right? And
Yeah.
I think that's more than fair to be, especially when it's like, especially when you're like just talking to like a Joe Schmo across the street. It's like, yeah, he may say something and not know what the words he is saying, but like he's saying them for some fucking reason, so there must be like reason to his speech, right? But it's not worth the hassle of like trying to fucking decode it. You might as well just go talk to someone else who is either a little bit more knowledgeable or less like, I don't know, up their own ass, I'll say, because they think they know
I
like
guess I
art
didn't
terms.
I guess I didn't read all of what that person said, but it just seemed like they were saying what I was saying, which was the lines are kind of messy. You would get better shapes if you had more line
Mm-hmm.
confidence. They didn't say it in those terms, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, because I'll say this much. I think we've talked about it earlier in a podcast. You can do more harm than good when you give bad
Hmm.
advice or like
Yeah, that's true.
misinformed advice, rather, where it's like you don't know the terms or the words you are using because you're just like regurgitating like a YouTube video. And that's fine, I guess, but like
That's
that's
okay.
what
I guess what I should explain is when you get that kind of critique, you shouldn't necessarily take it as advice. You should take it as
a
critique.
grain of salt.
Like you should take it as okay. Well, they said this thing looks wrong. Why does it look wrong? Now I need to figure that out.
Yeah.
Is it because of something? Is it because of what they said, or is it because of some other element? Is it
Yeah.
because of like this, or this?
9 times out of 10, unless it's an
So like with them,
yeah.
they said it was because of chicken scratch. In reality, it was because of line confidence.
Yeah, or line thickness or stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the myriad of other words you could use. But like, yeah, it's just that's just how it goes. And I was a kid once. I know what it's like to just regurgitate the things that like you absorb like a
Hmm.
sponge. Like, but then there's a moment in your life. For some people, I've had this moment too, where it's like, oh, I'm just saying the same shit that I just heard from other people. I don't have my own opinions, and then you start to form your actual own opinions, and like come to conclusions on your own behest, right? And I think that's really important, especially when it comes to fucking art, like insanely important. It's like if you can't like form like your own like thoughts and you're just like relying on what other artists are saying to you and you're like that's a good idea, that's what I need to do, this is that and that's this, and it's like you're just like fitting them together like the Frankenstein we've been talking about, like the art Frankenstein. It doesn't
Hmm.
lead to anything interesting or new. It just leads to, a Xerox of a Xerox. And it's like, okay, whatever, fine. And if that's what you want to make, that's also fine. It's just, I don't know. It's not that I hold
I
art
mean,
at like a higher standard. It's just I want to see newer things. Like, I think that's what
I think
everyone
there's also
wants.
something to be said for absolute perfection of an existing like
Yeah, of a
genre
craft.
or
Yeah.
medium, where it's like I'm taking this convention and taking it to as far like perfect as I can possibly do. It's like I get I only have game examples on like my mind right now, but
Mm-hmm.
like Half-Life 2 is a good example of that for its time of like we're just going to make as fucking good of a single player first person shooter as we possibly can. And
Yeah.
then they did it. Whereas Half-Life 1 was like we're going to figure out how the fuck to make a first person shooter
Yeah,
in the
there's
first
nothing wrong with that.
place.
In fact, what I'll say this much, Tom, is you can do both, right? You can refine a new style of art, especially if you're the one that like is doing it, right? I've seen this plenty of times where I've seen it in the reverse too, where it's like you have an artist, they're tired of this thing, they go out of their way to make their own fucking art program or something like that. Like PicoCAD's an insane example of one where there's just this guy who wanted like a 3D art program that was low poly and was fun to use in Pico 8, which is this kind of like programming software shit. And he did it, and he's really good at modeling in it, but I'll say this much, there's definitely like a few people like in his circle that also use it, and they're like insanely better at like 3D modeling
Mhm.
or on his same level, and they've been using the program less because they haven't like had the time he's had, because he's like literally been doing it, like making it from scratch. And then there's people
Yeah.
in that group that made tools for that program that weren't like, they weren't like alongside the guy, they were like, they're doing their own thing, they're like, but I want this tool to be in this program to make it easier, and he's like, that's a really good idea. And then there's like whole art tools that are like separate that you download for that, and it's just like this whole like perfect, it's just this perfect like synergy of like artists having ideas about how to improve upon their craft. And that's like the ideal like scenario you're in as far as like an artist goes, right? Where you're not only able to learn from the people who have made the programs, but you're able to innovate on their innovations because you
Yeah.
can bring something brand new to the table, because you're just a unique person, because everyone's a unique person, so there's always going to be something you can add to the table. There's never, you're never going to subtract from the thing that's being made. You're always add like
Hmm.
some weird minutia that will make it that just more better. It's like making a nice stew, like everyone adds their own herbs and spices and it just makes it 10 times better.
Unless you put like cyanide in it or something.
Yeah, I don't do that because I'm an
If you
artist, not a
if you
murderer.
uh if you create like an update for an open source program, but it actually has like a virus in it.
Yeah, it steals all of your data and locks your computer. We do that all the time, Tom. You want to talk about your recent exploits of locking people's computers for fun and using malware and
Well, yeah,
mining
what I've been
crypto?
doing is I've been like burying like
Burring
ticking time bomb Trojan horses in like open source programs, but like bundling them with like extremely good updates.
with
So
sticks and
like the people who
stones,
are
much
checking
like the original Trojan
people who
horse.
are up checking through it, they don't realize like they're like, wow, this makes the grease pencil like actually work properly. This is great. Let's implement this into Blender, and then they send it all out. And then I like I shut down like MIT. I shut down a few other
MIT
colleges.
majors using Blender, yeah.
I'm sure they use Blender at fucking MIT. I'm sure a lot of computers have it installed.
Mm.
That's all you have to do.
Well, yeah, because you installed them so that you could run your evil blockchain programs.
Yeah,
Yeah. And they're like,
yeah. It was
this
using
runs
every
slow. And it's
computer
like,
in
well, you need
MIT.
a better computer because it's Blender.
It was supposed to be like finding more digits of pi, but instead I was using it to mine crypto.
Yeah. Which that's normal. I think that's normal. I think everyone who's listening to this podcast, if you're not like elite hacker, programmer, and artist at the same time, then you're kind of like a basic bitch, and you need to like learn how to make Trojan horses, and like you need to learn how to zip and unzip files. You need to learn how to make an MIP. You need to do all this cool stuff, this cool hacker stuff, and then you're good.
You need to learn how to make a zip file like a hacker.
Yeah, hackers. Fun fact, actually, zip files exist only because of hackers, because they
Is that
want.
true?
No, that's a lie.
Thought you were gonna tell me like an interesting fun fact.
Yeah, I'm not full of
In
interesting fun
in
facts. Isn't that fun? Isn't that an interesting fun fact, Tom? Hmm?
in 19 in that I thought you were gonna be like in 1998 there was like this hacker that was trying to like hack into to like
No, but Tom, you
Harvard's
know
like
what is no, but
systems.
Tom, you know what is interesting? By the I think by the late off year of 2024, we're gonna run out of zip files because like you can't make as many as you think.
What do you mean you're gonna run out of zip
Like you
files?
can only make as so many zip files, and then they just run out. They're like NFTs. They're a limited quantity.
Ziptifer is gonna come in and be like, "Oh, it's too late. We're out of
Yeah,
zips."
yeah. No, actually, do you know the fun fact about zip files that I was totally like badgering and like not being okay? So really, for reals though, the guy who invented the idea of zipping and stuff like that, he was really good at like compressing files and whatnot, like ridiculously. Hence why he made the zip file. But like he was just like this druggy like dumbass who was living in like a hoarding like house and shit like that, and he just died. He up and died. But like the reason, not even like because like he got super famous from the zip file, and he made like a shit ton of money by like allowing like companies like Windows and shit to use it and all that, like everyone to use it, like because he just licensed it out,
Hmm.
and he just died being like in this like garbage like home area because he didn't like use his millions for anything except for like drugs and shit, and then he just died. So that's the fun fact about the guy who created the zip
That's
folder.
so fun.
He just used his wealth to get drugs and die, and that's why everyone
Do
can use
you
zip files.
do you remember fucking what was I gonna say? Do you have you ever heard the story about like the guy who like started the internet and like he had it running off of literally his computer?
Yeah.
Like he had like a normal computer with a sticky note on the side that said like "Do not unplug. We'll bring down the internet."
Hmm.
It's just so like those early like hacker days are so fascinating, where people were just figuring out like how do we make this work.
Yeah.
Where like the concept of the internet didn't even exist. It was just a bunch of colleges being like, what if we ran fiber optic cables between our colleges so we could communicate more quickly?
Yeah. That's all it was. That's all the internet was ever meant to be, and that's why this is interesting, Tom, because we've been talking about innovations, right? I think not a lot of people realize this, but the whole crux of the internet was to increase communications, right? So any like program like Discord or fucking like Twitter or anything like that that involves communication, but on a better scale or a more optimized scale, will always like supersede and win. Like that's why we never
Yeah.
use Skype anymore. That's why we never use fucking TeamSpeak anymore. It's because Discord is just
A big
inherently
reason,
better.
also, the reasons we don't use Skype is because it got bought by Windows and they ruined it.
Yeah,
If we lived in the alternate universe where Skype never got bought by Windows, it might be like decent.
I don't think so because they were kind of shit still. Like they never optimized
Skype
anything.
got bought by Windows way earlier than you think they did.
When did
Like
they get
it
bought by
was
Windows?
early.
Tell me.
Let me check. Because I
If it was
remember because
before
it surprised
2010, then
me.
I'd
I was
that'd
like,
be fucking ridiculous. But if it was like after 2010, then I'd be like, you know.
I mean, I was using 2011.
Oh,
Like I was using Skype into like the mid 2000s.
yeah,
No, 2010s. I mean, sorry.
yeah. I guess that's why it became shit because like is that when they
Because
implemented
Windows
the Skype calling? Remember Skype calling? You could like spoof shit through
maybe.
Skype, like fake phones with
Yeah, like
Skype
you could call people, but all anyone used it for was like
pranks.
prank calls.
Yeah, calling Pizza Hut.
Now people just do that with Google Voice.
Yeah, it's nice how things get replaced by other things. Um, but yeah, so break conventions. You know, make things messy. Have fun. You know.
If you watch a cool like kids show, drop porn of all of the characters.
Yeah, much like Steven Universe, a cool kid show that we're watching right now.
Yeah,
We're doing a
and I'm
watch
drawing porn
party
of the
of.
characters right now.
Yeah,
I should draw some Mabels too.
yeah, we've been watching. Okay, don't fucking. Okay, I know podcast listeners are gonna have to. They're gonna have a giggle fit and laugh at us for watching kids shows, but like they were kids shows when we were
It,
kids, so it's
people,
fine.
people, the people watching this show understand.
Yeah, I'd hope so. Except for that one guy, Craig. We're looking at you, fucking Craig. But anyways,
Like universe.
yeah. Besides our viewer, Craig, um, the reason we've been watching Steven Universe and Gravity Falls is because it's just fucking fun. All right, we don't have to have a good reason for it. But also, I'll say this much: I've been learning a lot newer things about the shows, like because for the timeline, right? When I was like a plucky kid that was like could relate to Steven Universe because we were both overweight and fat and morbidly obese, I was like, wow, I could really relate to Steven. And then when I became like a cool Chad teen who was like super exercised, had like a motorcycle and was like epic, I was like, yeah, Steven Universe is fucking lame and fake and gay. And now as like a 20 something adult, um, I'm slowly realizing like, oh, this show wasn't actually as stupid as I thought. They've actually thought out like a lot of shit. Like they actually gave a shit about their show,
Yeah,
and that's why it's good.
the show gets. It's why it's sad that it got really bad at the end because like they
Yeah,
planned like every little thing out really. It was like it was never quite on the scale of like Gravity Falls, but like they did plan a lot of shit way in advance. And then it all just kind of fell apart because they were like, "Yeah, you only have one more season. Bye."
Yeah, it's it's wacky how that show ended up. Um, that's one of those. I don't know what your opinion on is it, Tom, but like especially with like Cartoon Network, we've noticed, or at least I have noticed that they like doing those long shows like Adventure Time and shit, or like The Amazing World of Gumball.
Hmm.
Like they just want it to go for like ever. But then, like the moment like their margins get fucked up, they're like, "Oh god, we gotta fucking cancel all this shit. We gotta like rework, we gotta rebudget everything. We gotta just tear it all down." And then they do that, and then they're like, "Damn it, why aren't we making any money?" And it's like, "Well, sir, we haven't made any new shows." It's like, "Shut up!" And then the CEOs are like, well, what if we made a new show called Steven Universe Future? It's like the future of Steven Universe, and then it's bad. Um,
Yeah, the animation's terrible. They cut like they slash all the budgets. The music is all bad.
hmm and the
Like
only
one of the
reason,
biggest things with Steven Universe is how good the music all is and how
yeah,
like well it's used in like the moments. And then Steven Universe Future, it's like all the songs are like this weird like bloopy tropical songs.
yeah,
So what the fuck? This is like Lapis singing about like why am I still depressed even though everything is good now? But it's like a bloopy like fucking reggae song or something.
hmm And on top of that, I'll say you're probably wondering to yourself, viewer, what about Adventure Time? Adventure Time has good like fake episodes that are like the new seasons, and I'm like, yeah, but they're not made by fucking Cartoon Network. Have you ever noticed that, viewer? Ever noticed that? It's not Cartoon Network making them. It's some other fucking company. So, you know, interesting is all I'll say. Um,
Was it ever Cartoon Network making them? I assume they were just the publishers.
I think they were the publishers. I swear to God, didn't they fucking? Because I know Adventure Time was going to be a Nickelodeon show, or at least it was shown to Nickelodeon. They're like, nah, we like our Yellow Sponge Man and the Fairly Odd parents that get pregnant, and they're like goodbye. And so then Adventure Time went to Cartoon Network
I was gonna say I think Adventure Time fits Cartoon Network better, but that might be because of like Adventure
because
Time
it was on Cartoon
defined like
Network. Yeah.
yeah, it like defined their like vibe for like a fucking
hmm
decade.
Yeah, literally, like
That it was like okay now
it
because of
shook
Adventure
up the
Time,
industry. Literally.
uh, because of Adventure Time, Cartoon Network is where you go when you want like a goofy show that still tries to tell a compelling
Yeah,
story.
that being puppy cat shit, that fucking bravest warrior shit, that like dude, there's so many fucking like animations I could list, like 10 of them that are literally just like, what if Adventure Time but cat and girl? What if Adventure Time but like space? And it's like, okay, guys, I see what you're trying to do here.
I mean, look at like a regular show.
Yeah,
It's not exactly this. It's not like Adventure Time, but it's very in the same vein where it's
yeah,
like
where it's like two
a wacky,
characters.
goofy thing happens
Yeah,
every episode, but there's actually a story in the background.
yeah. That was a weird. I'll say
It
this one.
was much less pronounced
Yeah,
than regular show, but it was there, and it was part of what made the show fun.
there is yeah. I'll say this much. There's a weird fucking guy. Now that everyone keeps fucking telling me that I say that too much, I always think about that. But what I will say is this, Tom. It's strange how like the way we view content affected the content being made, right? Especially with like streaming shows, where it made more sense to have a consistent story because you were able to just binge it, right? And for a long time we didn't have any
Mm.
like grandiose overarching stories, and in fact like anything like that had like 10 seasons or something like that never really had like the most satisfying ending, and the only ones that did were stuff that were like funded by like shows that you had to like literally like go out of your way to pay for, like HBO and shit, where they have like The Sopranos and shit, where it's like, yeah, that's a literal story that's made from like start to end, and it has a good ending because of that, like because it's funded by actual people that want to see more of it. Like HBO is like the one of the few exceptions to that rule because of the way that they did their like services, where like yeah,
Mm.
you had to pay for it and you got a complete story out of it. It wasn't this like, oh, it just airs when it airs, and if we have like a loose story or we don't even have one, it's just an episode based thing where you could watch any episode and you'd be more than fine. Then really, we don't have to like give a shit about making like an overarching story. You just have to like the
So that's
characters.
that's why it's like it's weird. It's this weird thing where there are some shows that go for a million seasons and still have a compelling story, like
Hmm.
throughout it all, and like they're still building on shit that they started in like season
Like The
one.
Walking Dead.
But yeah, no, uh, but then there's shows where like they could tell a story like that. They could easily support like another fucking few seasons, but because of like behind the scenes stuff, they just end up ending it. I think Steven Universe is a great example of that. Like that show would be remembered much more fondly if they had like two more seasons of actual show to actually wrap up the story instead of just like being like, okay, we have one episode. The diamonds, they're good now. That's it. End of show. Good night, everybody. If they
Yeah.
had like a couple more years to develop the story and build it all up and like have it be a real arc, that show would probably be not looked at as like as shitty as people
Yeah.
would perceive it
Truth be yeah,
because
truth
the foundations it had were all really good.
yeah, and truth be told, Tom, I'll say this much. Fucking damn it, I don't want to say that anymore. Anyways, but like um with Steven Universe in particular, I thought they were gonna kind of go down the Star Wars route where it's like you have these reoccurring villains that were from the original show, and they come back because they're still very much headstrong in like their old ways. They're like they can't just switch as fast as like the diamonds because like because like it's that whole like survivor mentality where
Mm,
it's like wait, hold on, you're telling me my whole way of living was wrong and now you're telling me to change my ways, and but then they just double down on being like, no, fuck you,
yeah,
I'm gonna be evil, I'm gonna be even more evil, fuck you, Steven. But like,
that was one of my that was one of
yeah.
my criticisms of like the finale, where it's like these are like ancient entities. The diamonds are all like thousands of years old,
Mm-hmm.
probably hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of years old. And you're telling me that in one day they all decided to be good, and you trust them to remain that way forever,
Yeah.
because they're gonna live forever. If ever in all of history for the next several million years they ever once go, you know what, I want to be in charge again, they'll be able to just retake power and like kill Steven because he's a
Mm-hmm.
human.
That'd be honestly an interesting footnote to land on in that show, which would be like because they realize that Steven is like this weird amalgamation. Like, yeah, he's gonna die eventually, right? Like, he's not gonna live
Yeah.
forever.
Or
He's
they could
only
just like
human.
sneak up on him and crush his head.
Yeah, something I guess, but like to the effect of like, yeah, we can just wait this out because we live forever. We'll
Yeah.
just wait this out, and Steven Universe can have his fun little time in the sun for like 100 years because that's like a second to us. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of ways they
Not
could
to
have
mention,
taken
like
Steven
Steven didn't
Universe.
even really defeat them. He just convinced them to stop
Yeah,
being bad
he used the
with
charisma.
like a big. He screamed so hard that they all went, "Oh God, I didn't
No, he
realize."
went, I know you are, but what am I? And then they were like, oh my god, this kid's a
And
genius.
then fucking
Yeah,
White Diamond shattered.
yeah. That would have been cool if they killed the diamond for fun. They never did that.
I always thought a better way, if they wanted to like just short, if you had to have the diamond arc be short, like there was no compromise, it just had to be short.
Yeah,
Should have at least been like a an Avatar ending where like first he was able to manipulate White Diamond's gem to make it so she doesn't have powers anymore, and
yeah.
she's just a normal gem like
He
everyone
fucks,
else.
he
Because
fuck,
that's the main.
yeah,
Yeah, he fucks her, and
he gets
then
a normal guy
she
to
loses
fuck
her
White
powers.
Diamond, and then she gets impregnated, and then like 9 months pass, and then a human diamond thing gets born. Yeah, you would want that ending, Tom. You would want to be that guy that impregnates White Diamond. That's what you told me. In like
So
a
when Steven,
yeah,
if Steven died, would Pink Diamond come back, or is her like brain erased?
I have fucking no earthly idea, Tom, and I don't care to know. Also,
Actually,
if
I
Steven
do know it now that I think
if
about
Steven
it.
comes in a woman, do they get the gem now?
I don't know. I
In a
don't think
wait,
so.
in a
I
court of
think that
law,
if
Tom,
Steven
when
had,
Steven gets divorced from Connie, as they do in season 25, does Connie get the diamond because they have split custody? Like they have to split up.
I
Like,
don't think that they would surgically I don't think they would surgically remove the stone from
but a
Steven's
woman always
chest,
gets
killing him.
half. But the woman always gets half.
So they would shatter the gem in his stomach and
Yeah,
kill him.
exactly. This podcast is derailed, but yeah, that's what this podcast is about, is derailing and
Hmm.
breaking convention. We're not like your normal, we're not like your dad's podcast. We're not like Joe Rogan. We're
We just
raw.
lost so many people by talking about like subtle spoilers for Steven Universe for fucking 5 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. But it's their fault for not watching Steven Universe when they were a child or when they were in their mother's womb. So, you know,
It's their fault for being our fans.
yeah.
Fucking idiots.
And we're not censoring any of this, and we're not putting like a big spoiler warning at the beginning of this. You're just gonna get pissed off, and we're gonna have 0 YouTube viewers, and it's gonna be great. Look, man, if you haven't watched Steven Universe, that's on you, bud. That's not on me. That's on you. All right. You weren't gonna get around to watching Steven Universe. Fucking be real. All right. Stop scratching your belly. We know you weren't gonna watch Steven Universe.
Let's talk about Gravity Falls.
Yeah,
That
let's
show is
spoil
just
that
fucking
show.
great in every direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, let's not do that. That's a show that I care much more about spoiling.
Yeah, and it's so short too. Like honestly, it's like worth watching. Like it's not that hard to watch it.
Yeah,
Steven Universe, I'll say, even though I've noticed with Steven Universe, there's technically no filler episode because every filler episode actually has like an ounce of like story. But
yeah.
like with fucking
Well,
Gravity
that's the thing that, like,
Falls, it's like there's no filler episodes in Gravity Falls. It's all just
yeah,
fucking. It's just straight to the point.
that's something clever that they There's something clever they do in Steven Universe where it's like they'll have an episode start like the dream. You know the episode where
Yeah,
he tries to like he's trying to teach uh
Pearl how to sleep.
Pearl and Amethyst how to dream,
Yeah,
how to sleep. And you think, oh, this is just a filler episode about like, oh, Pearl learns to be more human. But then no, it's not about that at all. It's about Steven like traveling into Lapis's mind and finding the fusion.
yeah. Being able to
It's a
use his
really clever like
telekinesis
way of doing that.
powers. Mm-hmm. It's very interesting. I'll say. But yeah, they do a lot of interesting stuff like that. Where
As for Mabel,
yeah, as for Mabel, her character arc is fascinating because she's a woman.
it was really funny like when we were watching with Vank, I don't think Vank's never seen Gravity Falls,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and I've always made jokes that like Mabel's super horny, and people just think I'm like fucking with them. And the only thing that Vank was saying during the first couple episodes was like, "Wait,
But yeah,
that was
this
real?
is just her character,
Mabel's
really.
actually like a slut? What the
Yeah,
fuck?"
she's a horn dog for men. Yeah,
It's literally her entire personality.
yeah. But it's like that. It's like that teenager personality, so it's like understandable. It's like
Yeah.
that's just one of the
Well, yeah,
many
it's
archetypes
cute.
of
It's
being
not
like a
like,
teen,
mm-hmm.
being boy crazy. I know I was boy crazy, so
You are boy crazy.
I'm still fucking boy crazy, Tom. That has never changed.
I'm Mabel crazy.
Yeah. You maybe shouldn't say that in front of the FBI agent that's standing right behind you
Don't
right now.
worry.
Don't
I'm
turn
drawing her
around.
as I'm drawing her as 200 years old.
Oh yeah, when she drinks the 200-year-old potion.
The instant death potion.
Yeah, the instant death potion. It's
But
my
what it actually does is it
favorite.
just what the instant death potion does is it ages you by 200 years. So because it's like in video games where there's like items that are supposed to cause instant death,
Yeah.
but then you realize that, oh, if I like min maxed the game and got super high HP, then like the instant death thing won't actually kill me. It'll just leave me with like 2 health.
Mhm.
That's what happens to her. Like she has like magical abilities that mean she can live to like 300 years old. But the
Yeah.
instant death potion just makes her like really old.
As we all know, she drank a potion of invulnerability, and that made her invulnerable to death.
That's not min maxy. That's just
It's
that's
silly.
just invulnerability. That's just like a cheat code.
It's not a cheat code. It's not a cheat code when I
It's
type
like
in
a
slash.
clever like I tricked the system.
That's not a cheat code when I type in slash that give me no damage. I'm invincible God mode. That's not cheating. I do that all the time.
When you type in Rosebud.
Yeah, here's a little trick for you gamers out there. Open up the command line in Windows and type in /God mode, and then in real life you will be God mode. So yeah,
Slash type in slash no clip.
yes, type in /noclip, and you'll clip through things, and places, and
What'll
people.
happen is you'll essentially become a ghost because you won't be able to physically interact with anything anymore.
You know what's fascinating,
It's
Tom,
hell.
about this podcast and how everyone left
What?
because we were talking about Steven Universe is how little any of the artists in this circle have watched Steven Universe, that they don't want to get spoiled on it. Like
Oh yeah.
I was of the
Well,
impression
yeah.
like that people were
It
just
was kind of
rewatching
stupid
it.
for me to start talking about that,
Hmm.
considering all the people that were listening to it were like watching it along with us.
Yeah, yeah, you were stupid, Tom, for talking about a show you liked. But yeah,
Breaking Bad now.
it's just strange to me because like I would have figured that people that like your art would have liked or just watched Steven Universe just as kids, because it's like not even that, it's just like it's just one of those shows that like it's like SpongeBob, I'll say, where it's like it's kind of synonymous with the generation that grew up with it, right? um
Hmm.
it's just a part of the cultural zeitgeist, like Adventure Time or like Ren and Stimpy or fucking any other show like that. But
I think
then
that my generation more so grew up with like Adventure Time.
hmm
Like, I didn't really grow up with Steven Universe.
I grew up with Steven
I
Universe.
watched Steven Universe I watched Steven Universe when I was like 16
I watched Steven
or
Universe when I was in
17.
middle school. I was there for the fucking first time. Like, not a lot of people know this, but like the reason I was so jazzed about Steven Universe was because I was like big into like watching Frederator and shit, like the YouTube channel, because they were the ones that were like,
Hmm.
they showed you all the like cool cartoons that people were working on, Frederator, that is. And like one of their things was like, hey, check out Steven Universe, it's going to be airing on Cartoon Network. And they did this whole promotion thing. I was like, and I saw like the only thing that they showed about Steven Universe was like the intro like song, as well as like the animation for it. I was like, yo, this looks fucking insane. And it's got a fat kid. I can relate to a fat kid. There's never been a fat kid that like is a hero. And I was like, this is great. This is what I want. And then I literally watched it, and I liked it as a kid in middle school. It was just good. It
Hmm.
was just good, wholesome fun. I was like, this is it. This is happening. But then like,
So the animation is just the animation
yeah,
and like the music are all just great.
dude, the intro to fucking Steven Universe is what hooked me on it to begin with. I was like, and the music on top of that, I was like, this is like something completely different. Like, not like the only things that I thought were like this were like the intro animations in like fucking Sailor Moon and shit like that, where like I knew exactly where this like show was coming from, and I was like, I was all there for it. I was like, this is what this is, and this is gonna be great. And it was. When I was in middle school, I really liked it. And it's a weird one too, because like that show had so many weird hiatuses that it grew up like I grew out of it
Yeah.
as like it kept airing. Like I was growing more out of the demographic of like, you should watch Steven Universe. I was like, yeah, but Steven Universe is a fat doughy kid who's like 13 or whatever. I can't relate to that. I'm in high school now. Fuck Steven Universe. Boy, he's going on
I
spacefaring
don't care if I can relate to
adventures.
it.
Yeah, fuck Steven Universe.
Is it a fun story?
I don't know. Well, because I had kid brain, Tom. Kid brain. Um,
Yeah. You're like, I'm 14 now. How can I relate to a 13
how
year
can I
old?
relate to Harry Potter? This is silly. Harry Potter is like one of the
Um,
few anomalies when it
you know,
comes to that, because like everyone of all ages loved Harry Potter. They could relate to a 9-year-old going to a magic school.
well, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Because they all went to magic schools.
yeah,
You
that's
know
what.
why I started watching Steven Universe?
Hmm.
It was because of fucking once again, like so many things in my artistic like journey, it was because of fucking the Grumpcade Pokemon Art Academy series.
Oh shit, yeah.
It was because there was an episode where there was some like Pokemon that had like a triangle head, and Ross was like, "Haha, I'm gonna draw it as Peridot," and I was like, "God fucking damn it, I have to skip this episode because I still haven't watched Steven Universe." And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'll watch it like today. And literally over that weekend, I think I spent like 3 days straight just waking up, watching Steven Universe, and going to bed, and just blitzed through all of the episodes that were
That's
up until that out
hilarious.
until that point. I think think it was like the middle of like season 3. I just like burned through it, and then over that one weekend, I went from like I don't know what Steven Universe is, but it looks kind of cute to
Yeah.
this is my favorite show, and I can't wait for more episodes to come out.
To talk on Peridot for a hot minute, because her famous catchphrase is Claude. She calls people Claudes. Um,
Her famous catchphrase: "Go fuck
yeah,
yourself."
go fuck yourself, Claude. It's hilarious to me because like when I was in middle school and high school, I would say Claude, but not because of like her, but because I watched the Yogs cast and that was one of their words that they would say to insult people. And I was like, "Oh, that's a neat little British word. I could use that in my day to day." And so I did. And then the moment like Steven Universe came out, like a lot of people were using Claude, and then people got pissed off at me for using the word Claude because they were like, "No, actually, I was the first person to say Claude in this school." And I was like, "What do you mean? It's a word." It's people use it. Who
That's really
cares?
funny how
Yeah,
like in schools that people it's because like when you're like a little kid, you want to claim something that like is defining about
yeah,
you. And so people that's why people those kids in middle school that walk into class wearing like fucking cat ears and a tail
yeah.
because they're just like
Butt plug
I'm the nerd
tail.
kid. I'm supposed to be really nerdy.
Yeah.
And, like the fucking Tumblr kid that walks in and it's like, you know, and it's funny because that like worked on me a little bit back then. I think I like
Hmm.
kind of understood it was kind of cringy, but I was still like, but this person's really cool.
Yeah, at least they're going out of their
But you
way.
know, looking back, it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
but like, looking back, it's just like, all right, that was
There's a
stupid.
difference, I'll say, where it's like the difference is this. If it's a person that wears the same fucking cat headphones day in and day out, then they're trying to be wacky crazy for wacky crazy sakes. But if it's a person that like dresses up in like a fucking suit and tie, but they have like different like articles of clothing for the suit and tie, and like they constantly like shake it up and change it, like that person's not autistic. That person just has good fashion sense, and they just want to dress how they want to dress, and they invest money into that. While on the opposite spectrum, there's like the autistic kid that just dress up in the same fucking like Michael Scott suit where it's just like he looks like a businessman. It's like, what are you doing, man? This is high school. Stop wearing the same shit. We can
Well, I just
we know you
when I
haven't
was in middle
washed it.
school, I had like the cat ears person, and this wasn't like autistic. This was just like a normal person who like
Yeah.
was like a Tumblr person who like really wanted to use that to be like their unique trait. So like they would walk in with the cat ears sometimes. Sometimes they would wear like a blonde wig
Did they
and
yaw at
spiky
you?
Kamina glasses,
Yeah.
probably.
Oh
Um,
god.
and they would wear a shirt, and it was they would come in like in full cosplay, like they were I think well, some character from Homestuck they would come in as, who has the
Oh
Kamina glasses,
no.
blonde hair, and the like a T-shirt that has I think a record on it,
Yeah.
and it was like that's really cool.
Yeah.
And one day I was finally like, I'm gonna try to read Homestuck, and I think I spent
It's
3 hours
not.
reading
Yeah.
not even the actual comic, but I was impressed by like how much work went into it. But
Yeah.
like, you know, have you ever like tried to read it like on the actual website?
It's not worth it.
Had this thing where they had like little secret clickable things in the background.
Yeah.
So I got to like a part where you could click on like a book and you could read that book, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll just read this book real quick. So I have like, and maybe there's context, maybe it's just a funny story.
Mm-mm.
I spent like 2 hours just reading that, the like side hidden thing, and I was like, this is way too much content for
Yeah,
me. This
so
is I can't do this.
if for people who don't know what we're talking about, so in the day with Flash Player and shit like that, there were things like Homestuck, as well as like other examples of Homestuck, where it was like an interactive like comic thing using Flash. So what you would end up doing is you would host your website, you would have your comic, and you could click on little things here and there, and it's very cool and interactive. And sometimes it lends itself to like making cooler jokes, like is it like Strong Bad, like that one? That's another one example. Um,
Yeah, I
but
think every Strong Bad episode has like a hidden link somewhere in it.
yeah, and especially with Strong Bad, it adds to the comedy. And the moment you try to like translate that
Yeah.
to like a normal image that people can view on like the internet, it actually diminishes the quality of like the craftsmanship. It's sad to say. I think that's why a lot of people got like bent out of shape with the whole Flash thing not being able to be used in stuff like that. But yeah, Homestuck is definitely like an
Well,
opposite cut.
I think the reason that people were upset about that just because it's gonna lead to so much. It
That
did lead to
too.
so much like lost media
Yeah. But
and
yet,
like making it a lot more annoying. Because now what you need to do if you want to play like a lot of old Newgrounds games is like download the game onto your computer and
yeah.
then run it through like a Flash alternative.
hmm But yeah, those are I'll say this much. Those were examples of what we were talking about in this podcast, where it's like you take the media that no one's been fucking around with, like Flash, and you evolve it by doing crazier stuff with it, right? By like doing this interactive like comics, because like Flash was made to like build websites. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't made to do animations or like interactive comics. It was made to make fucking websites. It's like that's it. That's it, all it was made for. But like
It's funny.
people
It's funny because
went
like
crazy.
it was made for making websites, but it was terrible for making websites. The
Yeah.
only thing it was really good for was games.
Mm-hmm. No, if you got really good
Like
at the
Flash
programming
websites have
language,
been broken.
yeah.
Well, it's just that Flash websites have been broken for years, long before Flash was discontinued.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, no one used Flash for making websites
Yeah.
because like Java and HTML were just better.
And that's why we love Max and Ruby, because it was made in Flash. Not
Yeah, it's
not
always funny going back and watching old shows and being like, you just look at it and you go, "Oh my god, those are Flash lines. Like that
mm-hmm.
is so clearly Flash."
Yeah, it's nice. Because it's like and that's why we're rewatching old fucking, they're not even old. They're like semi old cartoons now, like Steven Universe.
Yeah,
Because it's
Gravity Falls is old. Gravity Falls is like
yeah,
I think it
that
only
one's
lasted two
actually old.
years.
It felt
It was
like
like 2012 or
last, yeah,
something.
it felt like yesterday I was watching that in fucking Wisconsin. I was in Wisconsin when I was watching Gravity Falls, for context.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was living in Wisconsin at the time. And then I watched Steven Universe when I was in Alaska. Like Steven Universe filled the void of Gravity Falls.
That makes sense. I
Mhm.
actually watched them in the opposite order. I watched Steven Universe first, and then watched Gravity Falls, and went, "Oh my god, this is amazing."
That's crazy. That's bonkers bananas, Tom. Did you just like fall off as far as like watching like kids shows when you were like in middle school? Like what happened?
I just didn't. I watched like I just don't watch very many shows in general. Like even to this day, it's like the shows I've watched. I mean, I had like the phase where I was only watching like anime,
Yeah.
uh, and then like I just didn't watch very many cartoons. I've always been like a YouTube person. I watched My Little Pony for a long time when I was like 12. Uh,
Mhm.
but then like it was through the like Grumpcade thing, and the reason I watched Gravity Falls. Well, okay, this isn't the reason I watched Gravity Falls. The reason I watched Gravity Falls was because one of my friends recommended it.
Mhm.
But the reason I like knew about Gravity Falls and realized it was cool, like before I'd even watched it, was I accidentally saw part of one of the finale episodes
Oh,
of the
that
show
sucks.
just on TV. Well, no, like it's actually fine because I saw one of the parts of the episode and saw like I didn't see anything that was a serious spoiler. I just got to see, oh, this shit goes like wildly off the rails
Mhm.
uh at some point, and then I changed the channel. I was like, I don't want to see this because I know that this is like a late episode. And I think a different time I saw like one of the first episodes on TV. So I had seen like this is how crazy it can get, and then this is like what it usually is like, and that was enough for me to be like when my friend recommended it. It was less of a recommendation, more of a reminder of like, oh yeah, that is a show I want to watch. And I watched
Yeah.
it and I was like, this is my new favorite show. I'm sorry, Steven Universe, but you've been overthrown.
Yeah, I think that's the difference between you and my life, Tom, where uh I was just like a kid obsessed with consuming media like to the nth degree. So like I just watched Steven Universe and anime and did all this shit. And like I spent every waking moment consuming media. Like I
Mm-hmm.
was never making anything when I was a kid, which depresses the hell out of me that I think about it now. But like Yeah, I was only fucking watching anime and playing video games and watching Yogscast and doing all of this like kid shit. Like I wasn't spending time making art or anything like that, which is what my sister did or what you did,
I
I
mean,
presume.
I was doing the same thing. No, like I did the same thing. I spent most of my time consuming media too. It's just that the media I consumed when I was little was more like video games and YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Like and you know a few cartoons. Like I would marathon Avatar: The Last Airbender and like maybe like Ben 10. Most of the cartoons I watched were also like Nickelodeon stuff. Like I watched a lot of Fairly Odd Parents when I was really
Oh, that's
little.
fair.
Um, and it wasn't. It was just like I don't know. I never got around to
You
watching
know
those
what?
really long story
You
shows.
know what it was,
Especially because I
Tom?
didn't have a vector for it. Like I didn't have a vector for watching every episode in order.
Mm-hmm.
And even back then, when I was that young, I had the sense of like this has a story. Even if I only saw like 50 seconds of an episode, I would be thinking, this is part of a story. I don't know the rest of the story. I don't want the ending to be ruined for me. I want to be able to see it in the order that it was intended.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to watch this. But then I would just never watch it because it's like, well, what are the odds you're going to catch the reruns in order?
Mm-hmm. Well, they actually do that on purpose so that you can watch. So, because that's how they always do it. Is if you missed the last episode, they would air that new episode, the last new episode, before the new episode, so that way you could be caught back up.
Mm-hmm.
I think they did that for like fucking Cartoon Network and Disney Channel, but like, needless to say, I think the reason I would consumed Steven Universe and Gravity Falls and all that shit was because I got pissed off at Nickelodeon, as well as just like animation as a whole, because it felt like everything was getting lazy and just re-airing the same shit. Like by the time I
Mm-hmm.
fell into like the warm embrace of Disney Channel and Gravity Falls, I was like, I've already watched fucking Avatar: The Last Airbender like 3 times in a row, and this wasn't even with like a fucking box set. This was just watching it like verbatim on like T Nick or whatever, because they would always do like, hey, this is the
Yeah.
Avatar Last Airbender season wrap up. We're gonna watch all of the avatars. I was like, hell yeah! But I rewatched it as a kid like 3 times in a row. I was like, yeah, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired of watching SpongeBob and Avatar, dude. Give me something new. Give me some fucking Kig Batowski. Remember Kig Batowski, Tom? Have you ever watched that?
Yeah, I do.
That shit
I did.
slaps.
There was a few Disney shows I watched. There's a lot of Disney shows I watched. Never Gravity Falls for some reason. Like I
That's
watched Kid
weird.
Kowski a little bit. I watched Kid versus Cat.
That one's
Uh,
awful. Oh my
but I
god,
never.
Tom, we need to watch Kid vs. Kat because it's so fucking bad.
It's great. What do you mean? It's great. It's Kid versus a cat. What else could you
Yeah,
want?
it was made in Canada nonetheless, where all good animations go to be made.
Was that like their answer to like Invader Zim?
I don't know what it was an answer to anything. It was an answer to fucking the squirrel and the kid show. Remember, what was it called? Do you know what that animated show was called? Where it was a kid and he had a pet squirrel
Oh,
that talked.
I I think I know what you're talking about. Wasn't it like the squirrels like lived in like
No, it was just one
the
squirrel.
fucking like an island between different like
No, you're
roads?
complicating this. It was their response to my gym partner's a monkey. Remember that one? That one was
That
great.
was a great one. I watched that a shit ton when I was little. I don't know why.
I did too. I don't know why either. I think it was just because it was like a new show. I was like, okay, at least this is something new. Oh, you know why? It was
I think I
because
just liked the intro song.
that too. It was a good intro song, but like at the same time, this is a little history fact for you guys. The same time that my gym partner was a monkey was a monkey got transformed, but like by the time that was airing out, the same a similar show, not even a similar show, fucking Mr. Meaty was also airing, and I couldn't watch Mr. Meaty because like even my dad was like, this show's like obscene, like this is horrifying. I got like enthralled by it. I was like, whoa, this is like insane gross out humor. This is like for like adults gross out humor. This is cool. But then my dad was like, no, you got to watch Jim Partner's a Monkey. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll do that.
I just never watched Mr. Meaty because it fucking scared the shit out of
It's
me.
terrifying. It's so, you know what's weird, Tom, is I don't say this that often, but you know what Mr. Meaty reminds me of is Fanboy and Chum Chum. I don't know what it
Oh,
is.
really?
Yeah, I don't know what it.
Fanboy and Chum Chum is so much more innocent.
Exactly, right? But like I think they come from the same vein of like first off, it's like the same kind of concept where it's like it's two characters, it's two guy characters, right? And they kind of like bounce off of each other. But like with Fanboy and Chum
I
Chum,
guess they share that both of their humor is everything is just so weird.
that too, but also what they're doing in both series is they're making fun of like conventions in the real world where it's like Fanboy and Chum Chum will make fun of like Tamagotchi and shit, but then Mr. Meaty will make fun of like food products and like the way like things are made. But then there's like this weird cross section where they kind of do the both thing where they're like, "Hey, isn't this funny? Let's turn this up to like the 11th degree of like how insane is this concept that's just normal to us even though it shouldn't be normal." They do like the whole like curb your enthusiasm, but like for like cartoon people, so like kids can understand it and relate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only reason I think those shows are so similar, even though they're like completely different in like every other aspect. We should watch Fanboy and
Do you
Chum Chum.
remember? Yeah, you should.
It's actually
I
pretty
remember.
funny. It
I
holds
remember.
up.
I've seen like clips of it and been like, this show isn't as bad as I remember it being.
You know what's even
I'm sure if you like
stranger?
watched it in full, you'd be like, all right, this
Yeah,
part sucks. But
yeah. There's definitely like
what?
really highs and lows, but I thought like I always just assumed that people didn't like Fanboy and Chum Chum because that was like the normal response to that show. But like I've seen like one or two artists that are like obsessed with Fanboy and Chum Chum, where they make Fanboy and Chum Chum art, where they're like, "This is my OC in Fanboy and Chum Chum."
I'm going to porn.
I'm like, wow, this is really accurate to Fanboy and Chum Chum. You must really love this show.
I feel like Chowder is probably a better version of Fanboy and Chum Chum.
Oh, definitely.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's like the same weird, bizarro world, but just it's not. It's Fanboy and Chum Chum is like if Chowder just ran up to the screen holding two pans in his hands and started banging them
Start banging them
together.
around. Yeah, they do a lot of jokes like that. And you know what? By the third time they bang the pots and pans in front of my face,
That's
I laugh.
well, yeah. I think that's the reason a lot of people hate that show immediately. It's the reason I hated it when I was little. Is the
Yeah.
intro. The intro is trying to invoke the
It's
idea of like
yeah.
this is just loud and fucking annoying.
Yeah, I think what not a lot of people realize is the funniest part about Fanboy and Chum Chum is the side characters having to deal with them. Cause like they're like this chaotic force, right?
Yeah,
They're like and they have like it's just insane like the lengths Fanboy and Chum Chum like go to as far as like their wacky antics to the point where the side characters have to be like they're the straight men's of the universe, like they're the grounded people in the Fanboy and Chum Chum universe, to where they're trying to live their lives like normally, but like it always gets fucked up. It's the same concept as like fucking One Punch Man. Fanboy and Chum Chum is literally a copy of One Punch Man, or One Punch Man is a copy of Fanboy and Chum Chum in the sense that you have these like two like overly powerful characters, but like the normal people living around them are like, this doesn't make any sense. They shouldn't be able to do this. Like I'm trying to live my normal life. It's fascinating is all I'll say. Fanboy Chum Chum is worth a watch. If nothing else, just to laugh. But speaking of a thing to worth to watch is we need to watch the new Avatar, Tom, that Netflix made. It's gonna be
I'm
great.
sure it's amazing.
I'm sure it's outstanding. I'm sure it's as good as the One Piece live action. I'll say this much: the One Piece live action is actually pretty good. I'll say that. You know, I have a lot of
I have
hangups.
heard that.
I have a lot of hangups with live action shit, especially, dude. You know what's fucking hilarious, Tom? Is the live action version of Death Note. That shit is so fucking hilarious, even though it means not to
So
be.
bad.
Yeah, it's just like, oh my god. It's especially worse if you've watched like Death Note and you're like, oh, they're doing everything wrong in like all the wrong ways as possible. Like literally, like they don't know what they're doing at all. My favorite
Didn't they
part,
like? I
yeah,
haven't watched it. I've only seen like shit about it. Didn't they like make the characters American for some reason instead of
yes,
just keeping it in
they're
fucking
Americans.
Japan?
Yeah, it's not even in Japan. Yeah, L's an American.
Yeah.
No, it's funny because you know the fact that it is in America is what makes it interesting because of the very nature of like, oh, if a Japanese student didn't come across this book, and instead like an edgy teen that wants to shoot up their school came across this book, this is exactly how it would play out, and they were actually right. Like this is how it would play out if an edgy teen from like America found a fucking Death Note. This is literally like they were literally making a movie for like the edgy teen who wants to fulfill their like Death Note fantasy. Like that's what that was. It wasn't like let's be like respectful to the original media. It's like no. We want to make the power fantasy for these fucking teens that want to shoot up schools.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
that's like a weird thing with Death Note. It's like Light was that. I think that's why I like Death Note. Where like I'm not good with a lot of dark stuff, but I always like Death Note. It's because like they know that their protagonist is the villain.
yeah,
There's a lot of stuff that will have like a horrible protagonist like Light, but it's like glorifying them and treating them like a badass.
mm-hmm.
Where like Death Note never does that. Death Note always portrays Light as like a pathetic weirdo psychopath who ultimately ends up just dying like an
Like a
animal.
pussy. Yeah,
Like he has like the most pathetic death. He just gets shot and he walks away and bleeds out.
mm-hmm.
It's like great.
That's
I
good.
spoiled the ending of Death Note, but it's not really a surprise. It's like, come on.
Come on, he
I
had to
mean,
die
what did you
eventually.
think? What did you think was going to happen
He
to
dies of old
Light
age.
in Death Note?
He lives on a vista and dies of old age. Yeah, man. Fucking Death Note. We've just been spoiling everything. So you know what, Tom? You know what I'm gonna say for this episode? I'm literally just gonna title it like spoilers for every popular media in the 2000s. So don't
Except for
fucking watch
Gravity
it.
Falls.
Yeah, except for Gravity Falls. That's the one linchpin. We don't
That's
talk
the
about
one
Gravity
we like
Falls.
didn't do.
Dipper gets a diaper in episode 8. It's called Dipper's Diapers.
Yeah, he does. The episode called Dipper Diaper. It's about Dipper like getting a diaper and he shits into it,
Yeah, he gets a
and it
crinkle
makes
fetish.
big green. It
Yeah.
makes big green waft clouds.
And he talks to Wendy, his GF at the
And he goes,
time, and it's
"Oh,
like,
Mabel."
you wanna crinkle it up? He microwaves his
She goes,
diapers
"No,
so that he
Wendy."
can reuse them to get the piss out.
Wendy says, "Oh, you have a." She's like twirling her hair in her finger and she like looking away bashfully, and she goes, "Oh, you have a diaper too?"
Oh, you have a diaper too? And then Dipper's like, yeah, I do have a diaper. How'd you how'd you know? I could hear it from across the hall. Wow, there's so much in common we
I
have.
can, I can, I can just tell.
I can just tell by the way you strut your stuff. And then he's like, I'm 13. This is weird. You're weird. And then he walks away. He crinkles away. That's
And
my
then
favorite
it cuts to
episode.
live footage of Alex Hirsch being arrested.
It's cuts to live footage of him pretending to be Dipper, but he has a diaper on, and the only other thing of article of clothing that informs you that he's Dipper is the hat. The rest is naked,
Yeah,
and it's a live action scene of him walking away.
it's like I just imagine it's like a grainy fucking hand cam video.
Yeah, Sasquatch esque footage. And that's how Gravity Falls ends, episode 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gravity Falls ends with Dipper getting caught crinkling his toes in a camera, and then he dies.
It
Then he
ends
kills
with
himself.
Alec Hirsch getting a UTI and because he had a lot of sex with fellow co-writers and animators. Is that real? I don't know if this is spoilers or not. Is it real, Tom, that like in the Cartoon Network verse that all the showrunners had sex with each other and they had like the big orgies and whatnot?
Yeah, of course. That's how they got the creative energy.
Yeah. I don't know if this is slander or not, but I've heard that rumor thrown about once or twice, and it makes sense.
This doesn't sound real at all.
All right, it doesn't, but you also think like, but they could have had big orgies. Yeah,
But did they?
Alex Hirsch had sex
Probably not.
with
Rebecca Sugar.
yeah, and Rebecca Sugar had sex with um the guy who made Community, and the guy who made Community had sex with the guy who made um uh, a funny show with Rick and Morty. So think about that. He says things funnily with like the lemon voice in a high pitched voice. We should watch Fish Tales, Tom. That is a roundabout way of saying we should watch Fish Tales. Um, Is that what the show's called?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I
Just
remember I mentioned that because the the fucking SpongeBob character looked like it.
yeah, it looked like a Fishtails character. That was another show that did the SpongeBob zoom in face, its realistic face, or I guess the Ren and Stimpy one, or I guess what did Ren and Stimpy copy from that? I don't know, but yeah, they did a lot of those zoom ins. It's a cool fish. It's like a real ass fish.
Yeah.
That's weird how Fishtails didn't have that long of a staying power. It was fascinating.
Well, yeah, it was just wasn't it just like doing stuff at the time like, haha, it's a cartoon that's really weird.
Not even. It was just unique, right? Like I don't remember anything
Was
being.
it? I haven't watched much of it.
Yeah, cause like it's just this whole weird fucking concept of like it's these fucking like fish in like an aquarium, but like you don't learn anything about like the place that they're staying or like where the this like weird aquarium with like connecting tanks is and how they have to like traverse different tanks and shit. It's like this weird fucking like Wonder Pets shit where it's like you don't know
I
like
always assumed the idea was
yeah,
that like it was just they're just normal fish and this is just how they perceive it.
maybe. It's just strange. And they do a lot of meta jokes too where it's like there's a fish in a bowl that's looking at other fishes in other bowls. Like there's clearly glass separating them and they know that. Like they do a lot of jokes like that. Um yeah, fishtails, it's a weird one. They had a black fish and they had a blue fish and they had a red fish.
They had blackfish.
Yeah, they had a rapping fish. He would rap to all the
Was it an
characters.
orca?
No, it was just like a green fish or something. Why would an orca be
It
an
was red fish,
aquarium for
blue
small
fish.
fish?
Could fit.
They could fit. You know, you're right, Tom. This is around the time when you know, people weren't super pissed off at like Shamu and all that. We should play the Shamu video game, Tom. Have you ever played the Shamu video game for the PS2?
There's Shenmue video game.
Yeah, not Shenmue,
That's not
Shamu.
real.
Yeah, different, different but the same.
You're
No,
a liar.
it's real.
You're a fucking
You play
liar.
as the Shamu, and he has to fight a kraken. That's real.
Yes. Are you talking about fucking Echo the Dolphin?
No, it plays much similar in the vein of Echo the Dolphin, but it's shittier. I think Echo with the Dolphin's a lot better. That game's so much fun.
You have to like eat. Do you have to like eat trainers and stuff?
No, so funny enough, Tom, the first act of the game is you escaping because the Kraken destroys SeaWorld, but then you have to fight the Kraken on the behest of SeaWorld because he's destroyed your like residence.
Yeah, I like that. It's not like escaping because you have to escape. It's like you're free now. It's no. I want to go back to my
I
tank. I need
want
my tank back.
revenge. Yeah, he wants revenge. Yeah. I love the Shamu PS2
What the fuck
game.
is Echo the Dolphin, by the way? Only
What?
only
You never
like
played
watched a
it?
little bit of that game. All I know about is that like I've never played it. I've just heard about it. It sounds
It's a
interesting.
lot of fun.
Isn't it like you start in just like a normal dolphin game, but then you start finding weird like Lovecraftian caves and shit?
Yeah, so it's an interesting game. I would understand why you've never played it. It's because it's one of those Genesis games. There's a lot of like
Hmm.
interesting old like Genesis games that no one's ever played, or they don't talk about, or they don't get like saved. But like this is during the time of video games where like everyone was trying their hardest to be like the next Mario or like beat Mario because like the
Hmm.
NES came out, Mario brought back the fucking industry, and then like the SNES came out, and then people were like, "Whoa!" But then like before that, the Genesis was a thing, and like they had, Echo the Dolphin, they had Sonic, of course, Knuckles, and all that shit. And like Echo the Dolphin was an amazing IP that I assume didn't sell well because it's a fucking dolphin. So like, uh,
Yeah, it's just like
and
a realistic dolphin
yeah, and
swimming
like trying
around.
to appeal to gamers at that time because like the only market at the time was like young boys because like that's how Nintendo got away with like selling shit was like, oh, we'll sell our NES not in the video game section, we'll sell it in the toy section for boys. and that's how they kind of were able to like make a comeback with
Mm-hmm.
their shit. And that's why all the commercials had like boys like being like, "Wow, did you see the new Zelda graphics?" Like that's why they did that. It was a whole like change up of how they were marketing, because before then it was all about marketing to like the home and being like, "Look, you can play Pong with your family. Look, you can play, this with your family." But
Yeah.
then after the video game crash, it was like, well, shit, we gotta like focus on one demographic that wants this. We have to make them want this. And so their idea was, and also for whatever reason in America, the whole like boys and girls toys were separated at the time, and they still are to this day, where it's like, well, okay, who's gonna buy video games more, women or men? And it's like the boys are gonna buy video games more, and that was just their philosophy on that, and they were right. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and so that's where I think not a lot of people have played Echo the Dolphin because of that stigma of like, why would a boy want to play Echo the Dolphin? But like, it's such a fun game. It's like it's insanely good, and it breaks all conventions of normal video games at the time, where it's like it changes up your movement because you're in like this watery area and stuff like that, and you're a dolphin, of course, and like you use echolocation and shit like that to like attack things and stuff, and it's just a really fun, chill game, and it totally builds. It's very much worth playing, Tom. There's a lot of Genesis games that like do a lot of like insanely cool like platforming and like other stuff like that. That's where you get like shit like all those like cool like ninja games, or like stuff like Castlevania is a classic. All those like cool well, Castlevania was on that other platforms, but it's like the good Castlevania games that had like really amazing soundtracks and stuff like that were like on the Genesis, that had the like attachment peripheries and all that, and like the CDs and shit. Yeah, it's just they were leagues ahead as far as like, and I think the
Yeah.
only reason they were around longer was because they had a bigger hold on the Japanese market than they did in the American market. Um, because I think Nintendo won out in America just for being like, although I'll say this much, like towards the tail end of like Sega's reign on like the video game industry, they were very much heavily like going for like, yeah, Nintendo's for babies. This is for grown ass men. Grown ass men play fucking Genesis. And, we do what Nintendo don't, bitch. Get off our turf. And but the reason that backfired on them was because things like the PlayStation and like Xbox came out, and like they were just inherently better,
Mm-hmm.
hardware wise, and that's all adults care about is better graphics and hardware. So and Sega was very much in the same vein as Nintendo, of where it doesn't really matter the quality of the hardware as long as
I
it's a
mean,
good game with like good enough
think
audio.
about it
People
like
will love it.
this. You know, this is a great way of framing it. So fucking PlayStation had like Metal Gear,
Hmm.
uh, Xbox had Halo, and Dreamcast had Shenmue.
Yeah.
I think that's all you have to say.
Well, it also had Illbleed Tom, and that was not a scary game either.
You're right.
That's
It
the
had
thing.
Illbleed.
The problem with the Dreamcast is that it tried to appeal to everyone, and that sucks when you're trying to like doing the market when you have like a shit ton of competitors too. Because like if you can just focus on one niche group, you tend to like last longer. Um, but yeah, that's the problem with the Dreamcast. Even though it had amazing games, it also had a lot not going for it, like the whole fucking Tamagotchi thing. Even though I'm sure that did wonders in Japan, it was not a thing in America. We were very much past the like Tamagotchi and Pokemon phase of our lives. And it sure Pokemon had like a resurgence, but like even then, like people
Mhm.
weren't fucking around with like pocket monsters anymore. But yeah, it's just sad. It's depressing a little bit. But like, yeah, Sega, they were a cut above the rest when it came to like creative products. Um, Even more so than Nintendo.
Well, see, if Sega would just listen to like my ideas,
Yeah,
you know,
about how Rouge the Bat should be
Sega,
slobbering on your
listen.
knob.
Well, how Rouge the Bat should wear less clothing, first of all. In that new show, they covered up her tits more than usual instead of having
Hmm.
like her having cleavage.
They actually cut her
They made her
tits
like look
off.
like this. It was really retarded. And I think that they should just have her completely naked, have the nipples out, and have a rated XXX Sonic
Should
game.
she have pasties on? Are you gonna be really happy, Tom, when
That would be good.
Sonic?
Yeah.
Are you gonna be really happy when Sonic the Movie 3 comes out with Shadow, but then also Rouge is there, and she like fucking flashes her tits at like the main cast and crew, and then they're like, "Whoa, wow, wow, wow," and they're like, "Hot dog," and then but you don't get to see it because it's PG-13, so like every character's blocking out her tits.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you think that they would do that a joke like that, where like she like grabs the things covering her tits, and just as she pulls them down, it cuts to the other characters.
No, Tom, you know what we're gonna have in Sonic the Movie 3 is like constant cuts to like Rouge the Bat getting out of a shower with like a towel around her or like with her hair did up, and it's just gonna be like really
Every
nice and
Oh my
tasteful.
god, what if every single time she like enters a scene,
It's her
it
getting out of
plays
a
the
shower.
exact same it's the exact same 3-minute scene of her getting out of a shower
Yeah,
every time she enters a scene.
yeah.
No matter what the situation, they're on like a space station or something, but it still has that's how she like
And the
shows
fucking
up.
and the towel is just ever so slightly so low that like it's literally by the laws of gravity and her nipples just like
You
holding it
see like
up.
two
Yeah.
Yeah, you see like 2 pixels of pink just above it.
Yeah. You have to zoom in when you're at the movie theater.
Analyze.
Yeah. You have to go to the projectionist and be like, please give me the digital. I just need the digital copy so I could just, I just need this. Do you think there's gonna be you know what happens with those like
And the projectionist is like, they told me this would happen. He grabs his katana, draws it slowly.
grabs his katana, grabs his pepper spray, grabs his taser, and does all three. But no, so Tom,
His 3 hands.
you know how like because we like in America, right, with all of our CG shit, we just like we outsource it to like Japan or like some other fucking shitty
Hmm.
company, and we're like
Korea usually.
Korea, yeah, and we're like, please do this, please understand, you need to make Rouge the Bat look like this, but like some guy who's working on the CGI shit is like, I'm just gonna take this Rouge the Bat model and just like give it out to like the Pirate Bay community. Like they do with the movies, where they're like, you know what, you guys can have Sonic the Movie 3
That would
early.
be
Here you go.
chaotic.
Do you think that would like destroy the internet for like a month?
Guys, we have the Sonic movie Rouge model.
Oh my god. I'm waiting for the days. It's gonna happen, guys. Mark my words. Mark it on your calendars, fuckers. The moment that Sonic the Movie 3 gets released on Pirate Bay, we are going to have Rouge the Bat movie model in real life.
Well, wait until like what'll happen is like fucking some animation studio, like Illumination or something, is gonna get hacked, and then all of those models are just gonna end up like poured out onto the internet.
Dude, dude, if the Tails model got leaked, you know what I'm saying, Tom? People could do a lot of good
Good
work with
animated getting
that.
fucked.
Yeah.
Bam could do some good with it.
Oh hell yeah, he could. Speaking of Bam, he's been doing an amazing job. He's a fucking insanely good artist. He
Yeah.
keeps on improving. I just wanna catch up to all these amazing artists and be like, I'm here too, guys. But I don't know. It's hard, Tom. It's
I
hard.
remember that was like
Hmm.
Bam is one of those ones that like I see the improvement. Like I remember when I met him and he was kind of like he wasn't new to 3D animation at the time, but like I've just watched how much better he's gotten. Like he posted that one where it's like 4 different characters fucking each other
Yeah.
that he just threw together for fun in like a couple days, and I'm just slack jawed. Like how the fuck can you be this good?
It's because he fucking practices and works on it all the time. He's just an amazing artist. Yeah. Dedication to the craft, baby. That's what it's all about. And I need to be more dedicated too. I think I need to just fucking
Hmm.
put my nose. That's the problem. I have so much like real life projects I have to work on top of doing art, on top of like working at a job, that it's like it can sometimes get a lot daunting. And I know we've talked about how we should like, make lists and get things done and all that, and
Hmm.
that's good and all, but like sometimes you can definitely get bogged down by like the insane amount of like tasks you put yourself upon. Like for instance, the fact that we're doing this podcast, like it's just another like thing to the list that I have to add, that I know that not only I have to do
Hmm.
consistently, like it has to be a thing where it's like if I'm not doing the podcast, there has to be a damn good reason for not doing it, right? Um,
Yeah.
Instead of just like, I just want to play video games. It's like, no, no, dude, fucking do the podcast. And with that, I think we should fucking end it so that we have more time to work on other
Yeah.
things.
Got a nice hour and a half out of it.
Hell yes, son. And all of it's going to be bleeped out and censored because it has spoilers. So look forward to that. It won't. I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna say this is a spoiler episode, so just fucking ignore it and don't watch our podcast. That's gonna be the
You
title.
could put up just like, by the way, you know what? You could put in chapter markers. Maybe that could be a good thing for chapter markers. Just be like, this part of Steven Universe
That's
spoiler. Skip
work.
ahead if you
That's
don't
work,
want to
Tom. I
hear
don't
that.
want to do work.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
All right. If you say you're gonna do it, then you're gonna do it.